Well, good morning, folks. Welcome to the Fun With Aviation Museum, home to the most touchable warbirds in Texas. I'm Jim Hodson. I'm here with Rick Bates today. It is August 23rd, 2020, and we are going to talk to Rick today about his experiences in the Air Force and Vietnam, and also being a POW during the war. So, Rick, thanks for being here with us this morning.
My pleasure.
Let's just get a little background before we talk about what happened to you over there. First of all, the F-4 is just over Rick's right shoulder, so you can see an Air Force F-4 over there, even though it says Navy on it. It's really Air Force. But
ignore the word Navy.
Ignore the word Navy. So tell me about why you got in the Air Force and your beginning of your career there.
Well, I was a jock in high school. I applied to go to the Naval Academy. Don't spread that around.
Okay.
I was the first alternate. They wanted me to play ball, but they couldn't find an open quota. Being a typical 18-year-old, I was impatient.
Okay.
And my father was a Navy pilot in World War II, but I don't know that totally inspired me. But finally, when I was waiting around, University of North Dakota offered me a ball scholarship, and I went there. And land-grant universities, you had to take either 2 years of physical education or ROTC.
Okay.
I'm going there to play ball, and they wanted me to wrestle too, but I don't need any more physical education. So I went to ROTC. Two choices, Army or Air Force. There's no way I was going to go to the Army under any circumstances. So I went to the Air Force ROTC, and I don't know, within about the first 3 or 4 months, we were in one of the classrooms. The instructor was showing us some films, and there were some films of F-4s flying in Vietnam and doing things, and then sort of the light bulb went off in my head, and I said, that's what I want to do.
Okay.
That's how it started.
Okay. So what was the first airplane? You said that you told me a little bit earlier you were a WISO, weapon system operator, right?
Yeah, I was a backseater.
He's having trouble hearing you, so we're gonna need to talk up just a little bit.
I was a backseater initially.
Okay.
I couldn't. My left eye wasn't quite 20/20, and they wanted to have navigators, so they sent me to Mather Air Force Base to fly the T-29, which is a military version of a Convair 240.
Okay.
I did that. The good news was they used to put pilots in the backseat of the F-4.
Okay.
And they quit doing that about the time I was going through navigation training, and they started putting navigator rated. Made us weapon systems operators. So that's how I got to the backseat.
Okay.
What I wanted to do.
Okay. So, so you went to Vietnam. What time was this?
Well, I went to my crew training base down in California, George Air Force Base, which I was sort of had an umbilical cord for the rest of my life attached to it.
To George?
To George Air Force Base.
Okay.
Victorville, California. But
yeah.
I had a guy named Larry Carey who'd been over in Thailand and flew in the attack fighter wing with Robin Olds on a big day where they got 7 MiGs down, and he filled me. He was a backseater pilot. Was going through the front seat with my class. Filled my head full of stories of going to Pac 6 and flying with Robin Olds and shooting things down and the attack fighter wing and the 433rd Fighter Squadron. And so I had my hand up. Now, whether that had anything to do with it or not, but I got to go to Vietnam or to Thailand, got a station at Ubon, and got put in the 433rd.
And the 433rd, what was the mission of the 433rd?
Well, the 433rd Squadron, when I got there, was the very first operational squadron in the Air Force to drop laser-guided bombs.
Okay.
And when I got there, and I had been told about being a fast-forward air controller, a wolf,
okay.
The call sign. And I walked in the door with my hand up and looked at the shop and said, I want to volunteer. And they said, get out.
Okay.
I said, no, I really want to get these. He said, well, first of all, you got to have 50 missions. Or 25 missions, I think it was. So this was like about the 1st of April of 72. I had my missions by the end of April of 72, and so I walked back in and said, okay, I got my missions now. I want to go. So I got...
Okay, they're telling me they're having trouble with your mic, so it's kind of underneath. Let's see if that's going to work better. Is that better on the sound, folks? Let me know. Give me a thumbs up if the sound's better now. Give me a test.
Hello, test 1, 2, 3. 2, 1, 3. 3, 2, 1.
Okay, I'm not. They're listening, I guess, but I'm not hearing anything. I'm not seeing any thumbs up or anything from anybody else. Well, you can try. No, it's still weak, they're saying.
How now?
Okay.
How now? Brown cow?
Okay, getting a thumbs up now.
Good.
I can hear pretty good. Okay,
Thank you.
Mike James, thank you. And Mike Lafferty, we're going to get to your question here in a bit. But okay, so you were Wolfpack.
I was a Wolfpack. I flew 60 Wolf missions, all in North Vietnam. Total of about 90 missions in North Vietnam. I flew some strike missions. I flew one of the most memorable missions I ever flew was on the 10th of May, 1972, when we put laser-guided bombs on the POW Bridge in downtown Hanoi. Huge strike force. The intel people said they shot 175 SAMs at us that day.
Wow.
Oh yeah, and it was pretty wild and hairy. It was one of those things where I had, being a young lieutenant, I got all suited up to go out, and I realized I hadn't done my morning constitutional. And my ops officer said, "Just suck it up. If you have to do it, let it go and just sit on it." Well, I tell you what, after that mission, I don't think I had a bowel movement for about 4 days.
Okay. Thanks for sharing that with us.
It was that type of a mission.
Okay.
But the most gratifying stuff I did was as a fastback, as a wolf.
Okay. So now, exactly what were you doing as a fastback? What was your mission? Were you going out and finding targets and then directing airstrikes?
Correct.
Okay.
In North Vietnam.
Okay.
In North Vietnam, because the classic forward air controller wasn't survivable up there. And
right.
One of his missions was coordinating with the good guys on the ground. And theoretically, there were no good guys on the ground in North Vietnam.
Okay, so yeah, it was from that respect, it was a permissive environment.
So we flew those 4 to 5 hour missions every day. We kept dawn to dusk.
Okay.
We'd go in and we'd have one period of visual reconnaissance. We'd go out and hit a tanker, and then typically our first airstrike was scheduled in, and we'd control the strike.
Okay. And were you typically working with the Air Force on those strikes?
Yes. The Navy we hadn't worked with the Navy yet. In fact, I had arranged I was going to get a flight out, I think, to the Constellation.
Okay.
Brief those guys on how to get with us and give them more freaks and things. But I got shut down too quick.
Okay. Okay. What mission was it that you were on when you got shot down?
I was a fastback.
Okay. But I mean, how many? You said you did 90 missions, so I guess
this is my 61st fastback.
65th. Okay. Okay. So tell us a little bit about that day and that mission.
Well, it was the last go of the day, and I was flying with our newest pilot. And when a front seater came in to the shop, he went in the back seat once with one of our old head pilots. And
okay.
He went in the front seat with an IP, and then when he got the thumbs up, they'd send him with the old head, theoretically.
Yeah.
I'm not really, I wasn't an old head, but I had more missions. They'd send him up with me to make sure we knew just the protocols.
Okay.
So that was my first mission flying with Jim. The weather was iffy, and all of my so-called hip pocket targets were sort of gone, and we were looking hard for a new target. And I saw some burned out trucks that I thought they'd snuck some good trucks in with. So we made another big pass around and came down looking hard, and something we're not totally sure what just blew the airplane up, and it would not fly at all.
How fast were you going when that happened?
A little over 500 knots.
Okay, so this was a high-speed ejection.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so tell me about your recollection of that. Was it actually a command ejection, or did you just get thrown out of the airplane?
No, it was. We took the hit, and my mouth was going, "What happened?" And my brain was going, "You're hit, you dummy."
Yeah.
And in the back seat there was a toggle switch where you could get guard up. Of course, we were flying single ship, solo, nobody was with us. I remember trying to get to the toggle switch so I could make a guard call. And then I felt another bump, and I'm thinking we're hit again. And then I went, "No, I'm going out of the airplane."
Oh, okay.
And I thought that Jim had done a command ejection, and he later told me, "No, you ejected, then I ejected." So apparently, while my left hand was going for the radio, my right hand was going for the ejection.
Okay.
And yes, it was. Then it kind of you went into a, what do you call it? Sort of a time crunch type of thing. Time stood still.
Yes.
And the next thing I know, I was in my chute, looking at my hands, which had no.
Yeah, tell me. You mentioned that earlier. That they're still telling me we're having trouble with the mic, but I don't know what more we can do with it at this point.
Hello.
All I can say is try to turn up your volume best you can. But you'd mentioned. Yeah, try holding it. See if that's going to work a little bit better. We got a little bit of air movement out here, but let's give. Is that any better? Give me a thumbs up if that's better. He's got the mic right in front of his face. I recommend you pass the mic to him to talk. Actually, Rick has the mic right in front of his mouth. So at any rate, you said you came out and your hands were.
My hands were bloody.
Okay.
I didn't have a helmet.
Okay.
And my visor had shattered, and I had a cut on my right eyeball, which caused a hemorrhage. And the biggest manifestation there was anytime the light was dim, I had this big floater on my eye.
Okay, and you said your hands were bleeding, but you said that you couldn't see any damage to your hands.
Apparently, the overpressure sucked the blood out through the pores of my capillary.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
yes.
So what he's describing to you here is high-speed ejections, which that was one of the things in the F-111 that we've talked about, that there's a capsule to avoid damage, flail damage and things. But Rick and his pilot were subjected to high-speed ejection and some of those damage effects. So okay, so you're out of the airplane now. What's going on?
Well, in good fighter pilot fashion, my first thought was this was going to be a damn long afternoon.
Okay.
Pardon me. The next thing I know, I kept hearing these little boop, 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 and I realized they were shooting at my chute. It wasn't for very long because, we were only about 2,000 feet above the ground, 2,500 feet, so I didn't have a real long letdown.
Mike's asking, what was the altitude of your ejection?
About 2,500 feet.
2,500 feet, so you're low.
Oh, yeah.
You're low, okay.
And we spent our whole life down there.
Yeah.
And I landed in the middle of them. I was captured immediately.
So hold on, we got friends overhead. Okay, so you were captured as soon as you hit the ground.
Immediately. Stripped me down to my skivvies. Kind of one of the odd things, ironic, is that my whole life I've never ever worn a t-shirt. For whatever reason, that particular day I was wearing an OT green t-shirt, which became my best friend for about the next 6 months.
Wow, okay.
They took me to this place. They made a kind of a command post, sort of semi-submerged with tent type thing over the top of it, like canopy. Called in whoever higher headquarters was. The next thing I know, they stripped me to my skivvies, and took my elbows back, put my arms back until my elbows touched, and put my shoulders out of their joints, and then tied me up that way. And then I got to meet the people for about the next 2, 3, 4 hours, and marched around. And the men, the civilians, of course, were not particularly.
I'm going to try something here. Let me take the muff off of the mic. Okay.
The civilians weren't all that happy to see me, obviously. And the men were, out there doing their best Bruce Lee and doing impressions on me.
Okay.
The women, the ladies over there, they chew this, it's a narcotic from the beetle palm.
Okay, yeah.
Blacks. They'd spit beetle juice at me. One lady in particular was screaming and followed, and finally she slipped between the guards and just cold cocked me on the back of my head with a brick.
Wow.
I've still got a nice little bridge back there. So then they put me in a little bunker, and this guy started his interrogation. His English was so poor it was hard to understand. And my feeling is he was taking a home study course on how to be an interrogator.
Okay. We're going to try something here. They're still having problems. I'm going to take the mic off completely, and we're going to use the phone because he's got the mic. Rick has the mic right in front of him. So we're just using the phone's mic right now. So let me know if this is any better at all.
Test 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Can you hear?
So we'll just see. Okay. Give us a thumbs up if you can hear Rick. Okay.
Hello. 1, 2, 3. So.
Okay, go ahead.
So I got interrogated by this fellow, and of course, when you go to survival school, you're given a lot of schemes for how to survive and how to resist. One of the schemes that they tell you to do is to pretend like you're confused and in shock.
Okay.
I had that one down. I wired that one perfectly, and I tried to just name, rank, and serial number. And this interrogator finally just said, "You must cooperate, or you'll be Spanish."
Spanish?
What? I didn't want to be Spanish, but I didn't want to insult the Spaniards. But later on, I figured out what I realized he meant punished.
Ah.
I found that out the hard way.
Okay.
So
you were in this place. Were you by yourself? Were
yes.
you with? Okay. So you didn't.
I knew that my front seater had survived because I saw the shoot.
Okay.
And
but you were alone at this point.
I was totally alone.
Okay.
For basically 30 days, I was kept in the entrance to this French fortification.
Okay.
Which was about 4 by 4 by 6.
Okay.
And finally, one night, and actually it was the night after, Jim, who had been not too far away from me, had actually escaped.
Okay.
Pardon me, folks. He was recovered, he was recaptured, but that's when they started taking us north.
Okay.
So that started our trip north. It took about a couple of months.
Here they're telling me that this is even worse. Okay, we're gonna go back to the mic and let Rick hold the mic. So Rick is plugged back in here.
All right, I'm doing my best. I just can't talk right, I guess.
So we're gonna just have to go with what we've got here. So so you were saying you were.
We started north, initially in a truck, and then we walked a bit, and we kept staying in these places. I was in cold, stayed in caves. I remember the first night out, the truck was on a ferry going across the Quanky River, and all of a sudden I heard an airplane going overhead. I knew it was a night owl, in fact.
Oh, okay.
And all I could say was, "Please don't flare, don't flare."
Oh.
And he didn't. So we made it through there, but we stayed in a cave for a day or two up by Vin. Then we ended up in Hanoi in what I consider kind of an underground railway station for POWs.
Okay.
And when I say we spent 12, 14 hours a day shackled together with our ankles. And finally we got picked up by like a Land Rover, and we got driven into Hanoi with it for about another 10, 12 hours.
Okay.
Then put into the Hanoi Hilton.
Okay.
So we spent another 30 days in solitary there before he and I got together. And then when Linebacker 2, the Christmas bombing started out, I want to say it was the 18th of December, and by that time Jim and I were in this big room that could hold like 24 guys with these pallets, and it was like 12 or 14 feet high and there were these big windows, huge windows with bars on them, and all of a sudden there was
Up closer to your mouth.
There was obviously an airstrike going on, and he and I are looking out the window, and a Marine F4 goes by, probably close to supersonic.
Okay.
And people ask me how I knew it was a Marine. It's because it said Marines on the side of it. It was that low. and then that night the B-52s came in, but also actually I should say, let me back up. Before the B-52s came in, most air raids started. Their early warning radar would pick you up about 100 miles. If you got within 100 miles of Hanoi, they called it an air raid.
Okay.
The lights in your prison were on 24 hours a day, except when there's an air raid going off. The air raid sirens would go off. The lights would go down. You'd hear the guns and the SAMs. Then you'd hear the bombs going off, and then you'd hear more guns and SAMs, and then the air raid siren would go off, the all clear, and then the lights would go back on. Well, this night, there were these two, there was a boom, 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 boom. There was a supersonic boom, and then there were a bunch of bombs going off, and then there were a bunch of guns and SAMs shooting, and then the lights went off, and then the sirens went. And that was the F-111s coming in delivering supersonic.
Ah, okay, okay. Now, what did that do to all of you guys? Did that improve your morale?
Oh, hell yes.
Okay.
You bet. I'm sorry, folks. It did. In fact, we had the camp authority and his official interpreter came in, bug-eyed, normally very serene. The camp authority, he always wore this cashmere top coat with his hollow French with his sleeves out of it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
They both came in wearing pot hats with 45 strapped around their waist, and they're talking to us. And they said they didn't acknowledge rank because we were criminals. But
yeah.
Of course, Jim was a captain, I was a lieutenant, but they talked to him because he was older.
Okay.
Anyway.
Okay.
So we're sitting there talking, and we weren't sure what it was, and they went on what it wasn't. And finally, the guy says, "What do you think's going to happen?" Jim just looked at us and said, "I think we're all going to die." And they ran out.
Now, I had a question earlier from Mike Lafferty, and he said, now you said you were in solitary for a while.
Yes.
He said, did you learn the tap code? Was it easy to learn?
I hadn't been with the system yet.
Okay.
The tap code isn't hard, but I didn't get with the tap code until like January when we were integrated.
Okay.
The flash code is an adaptation of the one-hand alphabet from use.
Okay.
I knew the one-hand alphabet from when I was a kid. My dad taught it to me.
Okay.
And I taught it to some of the guys I was with before we got in with the big crowd. My biggest problem is that the flash code, which is an adaptation of it, was basically made so you could see it over longer distances.
Okay.
Whereas
Okay.
the one-hand alphabet, it seems to be in your hand or in your face.
Yeah. And with the
yes.
tap coat, it was because you were separated from
Yes,
people and you
the
couldn't
tap
see
coat was
anything in it.
wonderful. And there are guys that could tap just about as fast as I'm speaking.
Really?
Oh,
Wow.
absolutely. Smitty Harris was the one that brought it to everybody. Although it came, I think, originally out of the Russian gulags.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Okay.
But yes, and it was that way. And of course, if you look at how we did it, you know, we're the ones that invented how to speak on the license plates. You dropped all the vowels you didn't need.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
And,
Well, how many people do you think were in the Hilton while you were there?
300.
300?
Yeah, they're
Okay. Were there any large gatherings of you guys at all? Or
the guys after the Sante raid, which wasn't successful in that, nobody got released.
Right.
But it was very successful, and the Vietnamese got very scared, and they gathered all of the POWs from all the outlying camps and brought them right there to the Hilton.
Okay.
And there was a big area where, I mean, they took down these bamboo walls and things, and we called that Camp Unity.
Okay.
And when I got to the Hilton, Jim and I got to the Hilton, we were in, there's three or four sections of the Hilton. Heartbreak Hotel is where their first project to break your heart.
Okay.
And that's where we were initially. And then there was a place called New Guy Village, and there was a place that was called Little Vegas, because we named all the cells and the buildings after casinos.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And so we ended up out of Heartbreak. Jim and I were over in Little Vegas, and when all this Christmas bombing started going on, the F-111s came through, and they were very close to a camp that's called the Zoo.
Okay.
Which was a big bad, it's kind of the southwest part of Hanoi. They evacuated it, and they put like 15, 18 guys into this, which was kind of like my Christmas present.
Oh, okay, sure.
Absolutely. And so then after that, by January, we were moved over into New Guy Village, which is where in the older days, a lot of the torture was going on. A lot of it. And we stayed there until we got assimilated with the zoo people. We went back to the zoo sometime about the first week of January.
But you were saying earlier that during the period of time you were there, that they had kind of stopped or slowed down the torture portion of it?
The torture itself was probably gone, but there was still mistreatment. You get beat up.
Mystery men?
Mistreatment.
Oh, mistreatment. Okay, mistreatment. Okay. Well, I know nobody's asked this question, but I'm going to. What kind of food did they feed you?
Junk.
Just junk?
Now let's see. I weighed about 220 when I got shot down. I weighed about 170 when I came out 6 months later.
Okay.
And potato pumpkin soup, rotten pumpkin soup.
Okay.
Sewer weed soup.
Okay.
Toward the end, they tried to fatten us up by giving us some oily tuna from Russia.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
But yes, it was.
So when did you all start to feel that your release was going to be imminent, or things had been turning and changing?
Well, obviously the Christmas bombing.
The Christmas bombing really made a difference. Okay.
And then when on the 23rd of January, when Henry Kissinger signed the peace accords with Dictator of Paris.
Okay. Did you have any idea that was going on?
Well, no. One of the requirements was they had to provide the POWs with the protocols for release within 7 days in writing.
Oh, okay.
So we all got called together and given these pieces of paper, and it was told that basically it was, hey, this is how we're going to do it. It's going to be oldest guy first, the youngest guy last, or it's going to be camp by camp. And the Vietnamese kind of rearranged a little bit of it, so it was almost the same thing.
Yeah.
And so yes, there was. I'm going to say the first release was on the 12th or 14th of February, and the last release was on the 29th of March. I was on the first airplane the last day.
Okay, and where did the airplane take you to?
Clark Air Force Base.
Clark Air Force Base?
Oh, yeah.
And what was the first thing you did when you got off the airplane?
I looked out there and saw somebody hold a sign with my name on it.
Oh, really?
So
okay.
Crowds were there.
Okay.
And we all, got off, got a bus to the hospital.
Okay.
Which was probably sewn up tighter than Fort Knox.
Really?
Oh,
okay.
You couldn't get in there.
Okay.
Put you in your own ward, deloused us.
Okay. Debriefed you?
And not yet.
Okay.
The kitchen was going, anything you wanted to eat, you could eat.
Okay. So what was the first thing you had?
Cheeseburger.
Okay.
And then there was a military paymaster.
Okay.
In the basement and gave you some money.
Okay.
And I want to say later that evening, they had the base exchange closed to the public, and they blessed us over there in our pajamas.
Okay.
And we got to walk around and buy stuff, clothes
and
underwear and that sort of thing. And then came back, and at about midnight, I got stuck in this room, and these Filipino tailors started measuring me, and by 7 o'clock in the morning, I had total full set of uniforms, dress blues, casual blues, hat,
Really?
belts, pants, totally tapered.
Wow.
We're going, what are you doing? I said, these things will fit me for about a week.
Yeah, right. Okay.
Anyway.
So then from Clark, where'd you go?
Well, everybody was sent back to the regional hospitals in that area.
Okay.
My parents at that time lived in Chicago, so Scott Air Force Base in Illinois was the regional.
Okay.
So we flew to Hawaii in 141 and refueled, and then flew into Scott.
Okay. Now, you're a returning POW, and like you'd said, you were there for 6 months or so. You weren't one of the guys that had been there for 6 years or something like that. But what was the reception like when you got back?
Oh, it's just like the 6-year guys.
Okay.
We were treated like kings. It was amazing. I don't know if this is a point to say this or not, but it's real easy to lose your objectivity.
Okay.
When you're first there, I mean, you're just, oh my God, thank you so much for this honor, blah, blah, blah. And as it continues, you start to get more comfortable with it, and you're pretty cool, and you have your answers. And then one day you go by, and then nobody recognizes you, and you're you go, what's the matter, don't you know? And then you have to, if you're smart enough, which fortunately I was, you go, oh, you ain't anybody.
Yeah.
Your 15 minutes is over, but
yeah.
Pretty easy to lose your objectivity.
Mike James is asking, how many days were you in captivity?
180.
180. Okay. I've met a number of guys who were POWs, and I know that in some cases they came back with physical scars, some with emotional scars, mental scars. We had a CO at Kingsville, for instance, when I was down there, that felt that the highway road signs were for everybody else but him. So when you'd see his Lincoln coming, you knew that he wasn't going to stop at a stop sign or a stoplight. So how do you feel you came out of that experience?
I think I came out of it pretty normal.
Okay.
I just carried on with my Air Force career. Obviously, I've told you, I was a backseater. I went to pilot training right after I came back and went right back to the F4 again and flew it until 1990.
Okay.
Got about 2,500 hours in that airplane. About 900 as an IP and about 400 as a backseater. So I've got half the time in the back and half the time in the front. But, and then I continued to fly old fighters as a contractor after I retired in 90 F-100s mostly.
Okay.
For 5 years. But no, it's just, it was something that happened to me. I'm neither ashamed of it nor especially proud of it. It was a part of my life.
Okay. Is there anything positive that you took out of that?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
You stick around with, you live with the same bunch of people 24 hours a day, 12 months out of the year, and you pretty much find out it's like a full-time sensitivity session. If there's anything that you do that's a little irritating to somebody, you'll find out about it pretty quickly.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you learn about yourself.
Yeah.
And I was pretty young and immature back then. I mean, I was 24.
Yeah.
But I learned a lot. And I tell you what, I got a lot more patience, but a lot less tolerance.
I get that.
Okay.
I totally get that.
Yeah.
So, we've actually kind of gone long here. We've gone about a half an hour. We've got a good audience here. I know we've had some sound issues. We always seem to, no matter whether we're inside or outside. But is there anything else you want to leave with people?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Life is full of ups and downs.
Okay.
Okay, whether it's a POW experience
Closer to your mouth.
or not getting picked for the for the B squad or the A team. Setbacks are a normal part of life. You got two choices: deal with it or don't deal with it. And you deal with it.
Okay.
I get a lot of folks who looked at me and said, "I couldn't have never done that," but yet you did. I said, "Well, the only difference between me and you is the opportunity to do that."
Yeah. Okay, I get that. And one last question. I got Mike James said, how much of your career was in the F4?
All of it.
All of it. So, in how many years?
20 in the Air Force.
20.
Although I got 3. I spent 4 years where I was dual career F4 and A7.
Okay.
And after I retired and went to work for this private company, I flew the F100, but also the F4 every now and then.
Okay. Let's see. It was a privilege to hear about your service. Thank you. That's from Mike James. I know some other people have voiced those kind of things. Thank you for your service. Thanks for sharing your story here today. And we may come back and under better circumstances do some more of this. But J.D. Franks, shout out to the 433rd. So.
Hey, Rumi.
Hey, Rumi, there you go. Okay. Okay, and Kay James said, great, love this last piece of advice. So Rick, thanks a lot. If you get a chance, come out here and visit the museum. Rick is out here on Saturdays with us a lot to help show people around the museum and tell some stories about the airplanes and things like that. We're open Saturdays from 9 until 2. We're going to looking forward to going open indoors, outdoors on September 5th. So from Fort Worth Aviation Museum, home of the most touchable warbirds in Texas, with Rick Bates, this is Jim Hodson. Thanks, and thanks, Rick. Thanks for your service. Okay, Sawadee. Okay, thank you.